Live fitter and longer with the Fitzness Show, hosted by fitness expert, author, and TV personality Fitz Kohler. She'll tell you why diets are dumb, supplements are snake oil, and the truth about how you can earn a lean, hard, pain-free, and athletic body. Now for our favorite bossy blonde, Fitz Kohler.
Hi team, I'm Fitz Kohler, your fitness expert and very noisy race announcer and author from Fitzness.com. And since it's October and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I've decided to have down and dirty conversations with other cancer patients and survivors like me because I think it matters. When I was going through treatment in 2019 and 2020, man, there were a lot of questions I had that did not get answered. I was given generic, these things may or may not happen. You may be bald, you may be sick, you may be tired, and I was all of those things. Finding their stories, similar issues. I couldn't talk to somebody about the ridges that were starting in my fingernails. What were these ridges? And then why were my fingernails ripping off? And why did my eyes change colors? That was a bizarre experience. And so nobody talked about that stuff. And that's why I wrote the book, My Noisy Cancer Comeback. So this is all my gory, juicy, invasive details, the things that were weird, scary, and super funny. I put them in here because I thought if I share my story, other patients may benefit from that. And it's interesting now that this book has become a resource for so many cancer patients. And on a daily basis, I'm getting carpet bombed with people reaching out saying, Fitz, but yeah, thankfully, breast cancer is very cure. Breast cancer will be it's not and my own. I really think it's important to put out information so the future diagnoses will have the support they need. And we're on these social media pages and everyone's got questions every day saying, oh my gosh, this strange thing is happening to me. And I'm not sure what to do about it. And so I've got women who've been through it. One is going through it now. And we're going to have a great conversation. And I'm going to ask a lot of invasive questions. I think they're willing to. So first of all, I'm going to bring in Mandy Diamond from Cincinnati. Hi, Mandy.
Hi.
Thanks for joining. I'm great. I'm so happy you're here. And I've got Lamia El Madali.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Yeah. And then next up, Tami Ford. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
All right. So thank you for joining me. Happy to have you on the Fitzness Show. And I want to start by finding out, who were you before breast cancer? Tell me about the other things that have nothing to do with your disease. So Lamia, I'm going to let you start.
Okay. So before breast cancer, I'm a mother of 3, wife, daughter, a physician, a pediatrician, actually. And I had the normal life, taking care of my kids. My kids are all homeschooled. So we were homeschooling the kids. I was working full time, helping take care of my parents as well. So it was a pretty normal life. And, and then the breast cancer diagnosis came out of the blue, no family history or anything. So yeah, and turned my life upside down.
Upside down. I identify with that.
Upside down. Yep.
And Tami, what about you?
I work full-time at UF. I'm a mom of 3. Everybody's out of the house now. Other than that, I like to read a lot, watch a lot of Netflix.
Okay. What you watching on Netflix now? What's your favorite show?
On Netflix, Supernatural.
Okay. Is it worth watching?
If you like it, if you like that kind of thing, yes. you're into that genre.
Okay. Supernatural. Got it. All right. Mandy, tell us about you.
So before I was diagnosed, I was a mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had previously worked in communications and marketing, and then I was home full-time with our 3-year-olds. And I was also working kind of like as a consultant as well for a couple of different places. And then I became pregnant with our second child. And at 17 weeks pregnant, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
That's cool. All right. Oh, background. Tell us.
I think you're breaking up a little bit, Fitz.
I'm over here. Lamia, tell us about your diagnosis.
So I was working and I started getting pain like on the right side of my chest. And I thought, well, maybe it's just I'm doing a lot of computer work. I just had my first ever mammogram and clean mammogram 6 months before. So it didn't even cross my mind. I thought it was all musculoskeletal pain. So I went to my doctor. She did an exam. She's like, let's do another mammogram. I'm like, but I just had one 6 months ago. She's like, yes, and we're going to do another one. And she kind of just left it at that. I had a second mammogram. It was also clean. Then I did the 3D or 4D mammogram, whatever that is. That showed something suspicious. Then we did the ultrasound, and that was all on the right side. So then we're like, just to make sure, we're going to do a breast MRI, which I have to say everybody should get a breast MRI because it caught a small cancer on the left side that nothing else picked up.
Wow.
So yeah, or else I would have gone a different way for me. So I had 3 suspicious lesions on first 2 and then 3, but one of them we knew was probably a fibroadenoma. And then 1 suspicious lesion on the left. I had 4 breast biopsies back to back to back to back. And then that one that was a fibroadenoma was indeed a fibroadenoma. The other ones came back as 3 different primary cancers. All 3 were completely different. And my oncologist I was like, is that normal? She's like, no, not really. And then I went through, I did get a second opinion. Because it was just a little bit unusual, I had a double mastectomy, which I'll get to why I hate that word and what it should really be called later on in the show.
Okay.
Had a double mastectomy, had tissue expanders. Those are, I mean, yes, they are necessary, but you can tell men created these things because it's like 2 rocks inside your chest at all times. But you need them if you want to do your next stage, which would be the implants. I had the tissue expanders in. I had chemotherapy for about 6 months. I almost died with the first round of chemotherapy because I was allergic. And the doctor said, I was like, oh, we're going to switch? She's like, no, because insurance won't pay unless you almost die twice. So I went back the following week, had the second round. I was so scared. I did okay because they pumped me up with steroids. Then I went back for the 3rd week. They pre-medicated me and I still had an allergic reaction, almost died. But that was my second almost die. So that means I can switch chemo agents and insurance will pay for it. So I could not finish my last treatment because I had numbness now all up my face. So I couldn't feel anything. All of this was gone. I was starting to have numbness in my hands and feet. So they're like, that's it. And I'm like, well, I'm missing a treatment. They're like, it's okay. So I stopped chemo. I started to heal. And then I had to go for the implant surgery. This was all in 1 year.
Wow.
So then I did the implant surgery 3 months out of chemo. And so it was basically the end of 2015 and all of 2016. Word to the wise. If you think you're sick, the worst time of year is around Christmas.
Okay.
That's when I had my biopsies, and I had to wait longer to get the results because everything was closing early or out for Christmas, which understandably, but so don't get sick around the holidays.
Okay. Noted. Noted. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And all right, Tami, tell us your story.
Okay. February of 2019, I developed a little lump in my throat, to the side of my throat. I didn't think anything of it because my youngest daughter had a lump that turned out to be a benign cyst. And so I thought, no big deal. About 3 weeks later, I noticed a lump in my armpit. My father passed away when I was 14 from Hodgkin's disease. So immediately I thought, lymph nodes, this is, I got to get this checked out. Went to the gynecologist. They checked it for me and they said, yeah, let's get you checked around Christmas. So of course, everything was delayed. Then come February, like I said, I was diagnosed. They did a biopsy of the lymph node in my armpit. And I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer with an occult occurrence.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
That means that they have not found any trace of breast cancer in either of my breasts.
Wow.
So you have breast cancer only in your lymph nodes?
I had breast cancer only in lymph nodes. Yes, they have not found anything, not anything that looks like it may have been, not anything that might be. They've done MRIs. We've done 3 or 4 different mammograms since then. Nothing. Can't find anything. PET scans.
And I think you said that it was diagnosed as stage 3?
Stage 3C.
And how is that when it's, do you know why?
Because it was in lymph nodes. I actually, once they did my PET scan, I had it in lymph nodes under my arms. I had mediastinal lymph nodes involved. I had supraclavicle lymph nodes involved, and then some cervical lymph nodes.
That's absolutely confusing. And this is why you're here. This is why you're here. I've never even heard about that. And like I said, I get all the breast cancer stories basically every day of my life. A new friend or new stranger becomes a friend telling me their story. I've never heard that. And then what kind of, so you had, what kind of treatment did you have, Tami?
Because I'm triple negative, it's usually most responsive to chemotherapy. So we did chemotherapy first. I did 8 rounds of dose-dense chemo, 4 rounds of adriamycin and Cytoxan, or what they call the Red Devil, and then 4 rounds of Taxol. After that, about a month later, I had 19 lymph nodes removed in my armpit area.
Wow.
And then I had, about a month after that, I started 26 rounds of radiation.
And then you were done?
And then I was done. They announced, my doctor said I was at my surgery date. They deemed me no evidence of disease. So we kind of did radiation as a precaution. But yeah, I was done with treatment. So far to July 5th is my official cancerversary. So a little over 2 years.
Got it. And then Mandy, tell us about your story.
Yeah. So, as I said, I was diagnosed at 17 weeks pregnant. And the way I found it was I just got out of the shower one day and around Christmas and noticed, right? And I noticed this like rash on my breast. And since, I live in Ohio, it's cold, the weather is so dry. I was like, oh, this must be just like really dry skin, or, I was pregnant at the time. So I thought, it's some kind of weird dry skin reaction with my breast. I'm pregnant. There's lots of changes happening. But I just so happened to have an appointment with my OB the next week, for like a baby checkup. So I mentioned the rash and they said, well, that's kind of odd. I mean, maybe you have like a breast infection, but after Christmas, we will, do an ultrasound just to be like extra super safe. I think they thought they were going to go in there and find like an infection, So anyway, 3 ultrasounds later, 3 rounds of antibiotics later, and it wasn't getting better. My skin was getting worse. I did not have a lump. And they actually ended up taking a skin biopsy, and it came back as stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer. And I was 17 weeks pregnant. So I actually, within 24 hours of getting my diagnosis, I had a cancer team, an oncologist. We were in meeting with everybody. They had a whole plan they had put together. And I actually went through 13 rounds of chemo while I was pregnant. Took a little break, like 3 weeks off, had the baby June 10th. This all happened this year. So she's about 4 months old now. She's perfect. She's healthy. She's wonderful. And 18 days after giving birth, I had a single mastectomy, took off my cancerous breast, and then just finished last week 30 rounds of radiation. So still very much in it, but each step is one step forward. So getting through it.
Well, just mesmerizing, all 3 of your stories. But Mandy, my goodness, to be pregnant, I mean, that had to be terrifying for yourself and for your baby. What were those conversations like?
Oh yeah. Like kind of when they had told us, like, we're doing a biopsy to see if you have breast cancer. My husband and I had a long conversation. We had tried very hard for a long time to have a second child. And I told him, I was like, I want you to know that if this comes back and I have breast cancer and they say I have to either choose between having this baby or receiving treatment, I said, I will be having this baby. Yeah. And he looked very scared, but he also, I think, agreed. I think he understood. Yeah. And he was going to be supportive. So I can't tell you, when they called and said, okay, you've got cancer. I can't tell you the relief I felt when, like, the next second, the doctor also said, but we're treating you while you're pregnant. Like, we can get you through this while you're pregnant. And so it was just like such a weight off my shoulders. I think everybody was really confused about why I was like happy after getting the diagnosis, but that was why. It was because it was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to make this like life or death kind of choice, And so that was joyful to me. It was scary, but at least it was like, but I have an option, it's not like either or kind of situation.
Yeah, for sure. And was it a hormone positive cancer?
Yeah. So it was a hormone positive, HER2 negative. And it's just been crazy. I mean, the other crazy part was I ended up being BRCA2 positive after we did genetic testing, which is wild because my grandmother had gone through breast cancer, but my family is very male heavy. Like, I have a lot of uncles and male cousins, and no one had shown any other signs besides my grandmother. So even if, I had gone in and said, hey, I really would like to get genetic testing done, I don't think I would have even qualified with those kind of parameters, which is just so interesting. But it turns out my dad is the carrier of the gene, and like everybody else in my family got tested and they're all negative. It's just him and I that carry.
Wow. So how fortunate, right? Lucky you.
Like, don't want your family to have it, but you're also like, come on, is it really just us?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, when I was diagnosed, the one thing I waited for was a genetic testing, because I had 2B, I had a Sézary tumor and a few lymph nodes, but they said we could do lumpectomy and take out X amount of lymph nodes unless you've got the A gene. And then, everything kind of hits the fan surgically. So I was very grateful for that. I'm very sorry you have to have it, though.
It's okay. Honestly, it kind of makes me feel empowered. It's like, okay, I know I've got some options moving forward that can hopefully help me to prevent it from ever coming back or developing a different type of cancer. So as hard as it is, I'm trying to look at it as good news.
It's a great attitude.
A weird thing to say, but yeah.
Yeah, no, great attitude. So Lamia, going back to you.
Yes, ma'am.
So you had 3 different primary, and I want people to know that it was like her being diagnosed with breast cancer 3 different ways because all 3 different types of cancer.
Correct. Right. So on the right, and the one that they were most worried about was a triple negative. So I had a triple negative. Also on the right was I know it's HER2 negative. I want to say it was ER positive, PR positive, HER2 negative. And then on the left, it was ER positive, PR negative, HER2 negative. You know, and it was just puzzling. There was never cancer in my family, and certainly not breast cancer. We did the genetic testing. It was negative. But on my mom's side, it's a very male heavy side. So it's only my mom and an aunt and my grandma, and everybody else is male. And my grandma had 13 children. Yeah. And my dad's side, there are females, but nobody. And where we come from in Egypt, nobody's like, there's no self breast exams. And, you know, people get diagnosed. Some of my friends on my team, the mother or the grandmother were diagnosed in Egypt, but it's always stage 4 because nobody checks there. It's a third world country. Nobody checks there. So it's like once you get the diagnosis, you're pretty much, that's it for you. You're already beyond treatment. So I'm so thankful to be living here, to be born here, to be living here. This for medical treatment, and especially cancer treatment, the United States is the best in the world. I have to tell you.
I agree.
It is the best.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't have money, there are ways to get you treatment, whereas in most other countries, that doesn't happen, unfortunately.
So interesting you mentioned that. Here in Gainesville, I got treated at the Florida Cancer Specialist, which is a beautiful private facility. And one day a woman came in, and she's a well-known meth addict downtown. She's homeless and she's drug addicted. And she was sitting in the infusion chair right next to me, same facility, same doctor, same drugs.
Yep.
And she certainly wasn't paying anything. So for all of the people who think that everything's wrong and nobody's getting treatment, no, that's exactly the opposite in our country. Yeah. If you do need life-saving procedures, you will get it. You'll get it. And that's very something to be very grateful for and proud of. It would be nice if more people were banging the drums on how great America is for healthcare.
Well, and I had the best, I just have to tell you, the best doctors, the best nurses. Everybody was just so wonderful. As a physician, I probably knew a little bit more than the average patient, but I was really scared. And it was a scary thing to go through. Now I'm 5+ years out, and Mandy, I know you're still in it, or you feel like you're still in it, but that tunnel just gets brighter and brighter and brighter as the years go on. And I used to know exactly the days I had chemotherapy and the day I had my surgery and the day I had my, expanders being expanded and all that stuff. And now as the days go on, I'm remembering less and less and less. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Tami, what was your experience when you were diagnosed? What was the fear like? Because they both talked about their emotions.
I think initially I was kind of numb. Totally was blindsided by it. Never expected to hear breast cancer. Like I said, in my mind, I was thinking, okay, it could possibly be Hodgkin's disease, like my dad had, but I was at work actually the day the surgeon called, and he's like, you have breast cancer. We're going to get you in with the oncologist this week. And I was like, okay. And I called my boyfriend and I was like, I have breast cancer. And he's like, wait, what? Yeah, it's breast cancer. And I really don't think it really sunk in for probably 2 or 3 weeks. And then when it did hit my kids, 2 of them are older. My youngest is 16. And so when it did hit, it hit really hard because I thought of all the things that, I've been blessed. I have my kids. They're pretty much grown, but all the things that I could miss, you know,
Right.
having grandkids, you know, seeing my youngest graduate high school, seeing marriages and, you know, all of that stuff. So when it did hit, it hit me pretty hard. And then I got to a point where it was kind of, you know, instead of looking at it as why me, why did this happen to me? It was kind of, it became more like, why not me? I'm not any more special than anybody else. You know, why not me? And from then on, I kind of looked at it. I just stepped back and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take it one day at a time, one treatment at a time, and push forward.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting with breast cancer because with certain other cancers, there's often a direct correlation. If you're a lifelong smoker and you end up with lung cancer, not so confusing. But breast cancer, quite often you think, what did I do? But I think so many of us are a fluke. It would be interesting, you know, 100 years from now, they may look back and say, oh, all of those women used those hairbrushes or whatever. Pineapples. I don't know what the answer is, but, you know, without that specific correlation of I did this, I earned it, it's a little bit confusing. But I definitely, for quite a bit, thought I was going to die. I was convinced. I thought I'm perfect family, perfect job. Everything's going so great. And I'm the healthy girl. So I thought I'm the perfect tragic tale. I am definitely going down in a ball of flames. How long did it take for you guys to be convinced that you were going to survive? Lamia?
So it actually, I wanted to piggyback on what Tami said. Yeah, those were my thoughts exactly. I was like, my youngest was 10 at the time. And I'm like, I'm not going to see my two girls get married or even my son get married. I have two girls and a boy. I'm not going to see them get married. I'm not going to see my grandchildren. I'm going to die before my parents do. And then they're going to have to bury me. When I saw, so it was right before my surgery and I saw my oncologist, is Dr. Daly in town here in Gainesville. She told me one thing and I, to this day, when I see her, when I go for my every 6 months, but now I've graduated from that, I tell her this was the most important thing that I heard in all my treatment, not how I'm being treated or anything. She said this, Lamia, you will live to see your great grandchildren. And that not only made me cry, but gave me hope. And that's when I turned it around in my head. And I told her, Dr. Daly, you need to tell every patient that because that's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear you're doing this chemo agent and then 2 weeks later you're doing this one and then 6 weeks later you're doing this one and blah, 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 blah. That's what we hear. I want to hear that I'm going to be okay. I want to hear that I'm going to live to see my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And to this day, I keep telling her every time I see her, that is the most important thing I heard in this whole journey.
Now, I'm going to ask you again, Lamia, because you're already a doctor, because you are a doctor. I think oncologists are specifically good at giving bad news. And I hate to say that because they don't want to be good at giving bad news. But I think if you're not, if they think you're going to live, they're going to tell you that. If they think there's, you know, not good chances, they'll say, well, we got 40, 50% or whatever it is. But I think if your oncologist looks at you and says, hey, we have a cure for you, you should believe it.
Yeah. And, you know, when I got diagnosed with the triple negative and then you read online, I was like, I'm a doctor, but I'm a pediatrician. We don't have kids with breast cancer. I had no idea what that meant. But then you go online and it's some scary stuff that you read about triple negative breast cancer. And you think you're going to die right then and there. You might as well just give up right then. And then you know that, you know, then you have a good oncologist and good doctors and great nurses, and the chemo nurses are fantastic. And, you know, okay, I'm not hopefully going to die. And there, you know, I do have to do this chemo. It sucks, but I've got to do it. And, you know, it is what it is. And you get through it. It was a tough year. It was a tough year.
Yeah.
I don't have a single picture of myself that year. I refused to be in a picture or take a picture of myself because I didn't want to remember myself like that. So.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
Now, Mandy. So I looked at some of your old pictures now, in full transparency, I met Mandy just online on Instagram last week, and she posted this extraordinary picture with no shirt on, with your mastectomy, showing your burns.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been out, and then I looked back and you had long hair. So did you also lose your hair?
I did. Yeah. So
Your hair grown back fast. Just to be clear, you have so much hair so fast. It bald a few months ago. So, but go back to sharing this picture and the burns. And how are you doing now? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I did have long hair. I lost it like after my second round of the good old Red Devil. And I gave birth pretty much bald, which is a strange thing to have photos of you holding your newborn who might have more hair than you. It's kind of a strange thing. But, you know, I think I felt like, I think when you have breast cancer, it tends to be a very beautified thing. And I say that very humbly, because I know it's not beautiful, and all of us here know it's not necessarily this beautiful thing. So, you know, also when it's breast cancer, right? Like people aren't usually seeing what's going on under your clothing, you know, like because it's a very personal space. And so I felt like it was important to show what was going on underneath the clothing, because even though, you know, all of us really here, you know, we can put on a smile and we can be very grateful, and those can be very true feelings. There's more going on underneath. And so I wanted to kind of share with the world that like radiation isn't like the easy part of cancer, which is kind of some of the comments that I had received previously from people. Oh, radiation's nothing. You'll get through it like nothing. You know, it'll be really easy compared to chemo or whatever. And I know everybody has different experiences, so I certainly don't want to downplay that, because I know there's plenty of people that probably did have a pretty positive radiation experience.
I did. Mine was very easy. I was terrified of burns, but I'm one of those who it was a lovely experience, radiation. So
good. Well, I'm glad for you. Because I did not have that experience.
Horrific burns.
They were horrific. But you know, I also, to be fair, I had told my radiation guy, I was like, you know what, burn the, well, I'll say the kind word, burn the crap out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want this stuff anywhere near me again. So I felt like it was a small price to pay, but I also feel like for those of us who are not in it, I think it's just important to have that reminder that there's maybe more going on below the surface than what you see all the time, especially during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, you know, because like everything's very pink and positive, and like, listen, I love pink, and I am very positive about my cancer experience, but there's real people with real hardships and emotions underneath that layer of beautiful pink things. So anyway, that's why I decided to share. I feel like I'm rambling, but
no, it was a great share, and I wish I actually had a way to show that picture now, because it was really, you know, impactful. So how do you feel? So you have one breast gone, your skin's kind of toasty right now. I mean, what does that do to you psyche wise?
I was not in a very good mood for for about 2 weeks. You know, when you're in that much pain, because I really did not expect the pain aspect of it. I was presented as, oh, it'll be kind of like a bad sunburn. And, you know, I have Irish skin. So I was like, okay, I know what that's like. But it was not just a bad sunburn. I was in a lot of pain. And so I was not the most pleasant person to be around. And finally, at one point, I looked at my husband and I'm like, I'm not being very nice, Sam. You know, no. But luckily, you know, over this past week, it's kind of made a turn in terms of like the pain, and things are starting to heal up a little bit. And so I feel a lot better. I feel a lot more myself, although I'm also now in this other weird spot of like, okay, I finished like active treatment technically. Now what do I do? You know, so it's kind of entering this other phase of the cancer journey. And even though I'm so glad and grateful to be in that phase, it's still it's a scary, uncertain place to be after you've been in survival mode, you know, for months on end. So
and take a deep breath, by the way. That's what you do. You just, you enjoy not having a doctor appointment every freaking day.
Right.
Now, will you reconstruct that breast?
Yeah, hopefully at some point. My other breast will be removed probably within the next like year. I'll also be getting my ovaries and my tubes removed sometime in the next year. So they're kind of waiting to see how I heal up from radiation, and then kind of making decisions on surgery wise, will we take your other breast and begin reconstruction on both at the same time? Will that have to be 2 separate surgeries? So I'm kind of just in a holding pattern with that. But my hope is to be able to reconstruct if possible.
And then, are you nursing?
No.
Okay. Okay, off the good one. I didn't know. Okay.
No, that's a great question. Like my oncologist was like, well, if you want to try, I'm like, listen, there's been a lot going on. Like, it's okay. Formula was invented for a reason, and I think I've earned the formula. It's
100%. Right. And then perhaps you would have toxic breast milk?
Well, right. I don't, how do you do that? I don't know. I wasn't even going to research it. I'm like, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah, I'm out. It's good. That's good. So Lamia, let's talk, because you and I have had this conversation in a minor way about you wear the head dressing, and some people have said like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're bald because you cover your head. So
exactly. So I think also after about my second, so before my chemo, I went into my hairdresser and I told her, look, I'm about to start chemotherapy. I don't want to see at that point, my hair was about shoulder length. I don't want to see all this falling down. So give me the shortest possible cut where I still look like a girl, but when I lose my hair, I'm not going to be devastated. So she gave me that little short, real pixie cut. And then I went in, I was probably by my second or third treatment that my hair was just, falling out, eyebrows were gone. And, I've heard a couple of comments like, oh, well, it's not that bad for you because, well, you wear a headscarf, you wear a hijab. So, it can't be that bad. I'm like, I don't wear this at home. I'm just wearing it now because, we're on video, but I don't wear this at home. I see myself and everybody else in my family sees me, and that's not, it wasn't a pleasant feeling. I didn't, it wasn't, I guess, some people, and I think it wasn't meant to be in a mean way, but it was I think people think that we wear this 24/7 and we don't, we're still, we dress like, normal, we're conservative when we're out, but home we dress like regular, everybody else, and yes, I was completely bald. And I did wear a lot of those like caps, those cancer caps that you get. I got all different colors and stuff because it just made me feel fun at home, but it made it easier when I went out because I became a great makeup artist with the eyebrows. I would draw them on, and then with the headscarf, nobody could tell that I was a cancer patient. So that part was easy. But for people to think that it's easier because, oh, well, nobody sees your bald head, but I see my bald head and my husband sees my bald head and my kids and my family. So that's hard, so it was a constant reminder when you're home and you look in the mirror, and sometimes the mirror was not your friend. And even now the mirror is not my friend. So I think all 3 of you got radiation. I did not. So I was given the option. So everything with me was out of the norm. So my age being what I was at the time, I think 41, was younger than a typical breast cancer patient. Then the 3 different primary breast cancers, that was very unusual. Then it was, okay, we'll do the surgery first, and then we'll do the chemotherapy. And I literally had 6 weeks between a double mastectomy and chemo. And I told the oncologist, can we wait? She's like, no. I'm like, I need a break. She's like, no, we need to hit you with the chemo now. Where was I going with that? I was going for something.
The way you looked at yourself.
Yeah. So, about radiation. So I keep scars and I don't heal very well. So when I went to discuss radiation, they said, really, you are right here. You can do radiation, but there's a risk that you're going to burn and you're going to have, scarring because you don't heal very well. And are you going to get a benefit? There was maybe like a 2 to 3% benefit to doing radiation. But then because I'm a physician, they gave me all the papers to read about people similar to me, my age group and stuff. And they had me make the decision of whether I was going to do radiation or not. I think part of that was because I was a physician, which yes, I appreciate that, but I almost was like, oh, I don't really want to make this decision.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but I decided against radiation after I see how my body heals, and it doesn't heal very well. I've got pretty prominent scarring from the mastectomies and the 2 lymph node biopsies and the lymph node removals during surgery. So I've got, 4 prominent scars, and I didn't, they couldn't tell me what would happen to me during radiation. And because there was only a 2 to 3% maybe benefit, I was like, I'll pass. So I didn't get to experience radiation.
Oh, sorry, not sorry. That's there are 2 choices. It's interesting. I remember the doctors being like, well, if you do this, there's a 1.3% chance of, it'll enhance your likelihood of not having a reoccurrence. It's 1.2%. You're like, well, I really felt all the time like, throw the book at me. I just never want to see this again. But also nothing went sideways for me. I mean, I had a rotten time, but I never had a left turn once my treatment was diagnosed. And then Tami, what's kind of the weirdest thing you dealt with?
Probably the not having a primary breast site.
Okay.
One of the hardest decisions I had to make was I did not have any type of breast surgery, because basically they said, we can't find anything. Yes, we could do a mastectomy, but without finding any trace of anything, there's no real benefit to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had no type of breast surgery. I only had the 19 lymph nodes removed. So that's probably the most unusual thing I had to deal with. It was scary trying to decide, okay, do I do a mastectomy and just be done with it? But they're like, you don't have any risk to have it reoccur because of that.
It's so crazy. You have breast cancer and perfectly good breasts.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers. Now, do you have lymphedema? Because 19 lymph nodes seems like you might end up with something like that.
I have been, knock on wood, been blessed so far not to have developed any signs.
That's
I have to be very careful and kind of vigilant about my right side, but I've not had any signs so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had 11 removed, and the things that I have to do to prevent lymphedema, and the fact that I'm so fit is in my favor. There's some things in my favor, but I have a sleeve. I have to wear it on a plane.
Yep.
And so this is what I do with the sleeve. Oh, hold on. I'm going to show you, because I had to order. I actually lost one on the plane coming back from Fargo, and I'm crawling around underneath the seats of the plane looking for it. And the flight attendant's like, everyone needs to be seated. And I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm going to end up with this big arm if I don't find this thing. And so I'm looking, my seatmate is on the ground. And again, we're being scolded by the flight attendant. So finally I went up and I said, listen, I'm having a little medical emergency. And they were very young flight attendants, because I think a more sophisticated flight attendant would have understood when I said sleeve. They probably see a lot of maybe men and women in compression gear from cancer.
Yeah.
I said I had breast cancer and I got the sleeve and I can't find it. And so then the flight attendants were crawling around. But anyway, so I've ordered them, and this is the box. But the box kills me, because check out this chick. She's got the mom jeans and the shirt, the button down the collar, and this new sleeve. I order black. I don't know if that makes me like super badass cancer lady, but I just don't like this thing and her glasses. I don't want to be her. There's nothing about this woman on this box that feels inspiring to me. So anyways, there's her, and I have to do that. And then I always make sure they do blood pressure and shots. Everything goes on the right side. But anyways, that's my lymphedema story. I think I haven't had it, but I'm crawling around on the plane. So now I ordered 2. Oh, and the place locally, you guys might know about it. The local girls, they're selling sleeves for $175 each. The same exact sleeve I found on the internet for $65.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which I think is not okay to gouge cancer patients. I
No.
think
No.
they need to rework their prices.
Yeah. Well, Fitz, when you talked about plain, so when I had my surgery, I had it out of Gainesville. I had it in Texas, actually.
Huh.
And I had 4 drains coming out of me. And I had to fly home with 4 drains. And so all I'm thinking is, okay, so, you know, you squeeze them and close them. And all I'm thinking is they're going to pop open with the air pressure on the plane. This is all I'm thinking. And the other thing I was thinking was, I have to go through security and I have to raise my arms. Well, I can't raise my arms because I just had a double mastectomy. So I had the doctor write me a letter saying that I just had surgery. I have 4 drains in and I cannot raise my arms and go through that, you know, the security stuff. The security people were the nicest things. I just handed them the letter. They read it and they're like, just go, just pass, just pass. And then I'm sitting on the plane, like, here I am. I have 4 drains coming out of me and I'm wearing this like jacket that zips up and I'm thinking, please don't pop, please don't pop. I'm like, you know, cause I'm thinking air pressure, these things are gonna pop, you know? And I'm like, and they had to teach my mom, cause my mom was with me in the surgery in Texas. They had to teach my mom how to remove the drains. And so it was, flying on planes when you're sick is not fun.
And that's the stuff nobody warns you about.
No.
You have like goo coming out of your body for a couple of weeks. You're going to goo, which I'm not really geared for goo, especially my own. It's pretty nasty stuff. So what about friendship? Did you have any great experiences with friends? Any friends bail on you? Weird experiences? Mandy? Nice.
I want to say that I think because I was 33 when I was diagnosed, so I think that like a lot of the women in my age group, they don't have a lot of experience with breast cancer. So I feel like that's important for me to just say. I feel like we don't know what to do if someone's diagnosed with cancer as a population usually anyway, but like then add the factor of like you're really young, like you definitely don't know what to do when someone says that they're diagnosed with cancer. So I think the hardest part was having to tell people and then having their reactions be so across the board, which I'm sure is not just for being young. I'm sure no matter what,
young and pregnant.
Plus you're pregnant. And that was the other thing, you know, it was COVID. Like we hadn't really seen a lot of people. Most people didn't even know I was pregnant. So it was like, we were dropping this news of like, I'm pregnant. Also, I have breast cancer. Also, we'll see you when we see you. You know, it was just this very strange situation. And I have to say though, I mean, like the people like our friends that we've put in a lot of time and love to each other, like they have stood by our side through it all. So I want to say that they've been wonderful and so supportive. I feel so lucky in that realm. But we have also, you know, just had some, maybe not like close friends, but just more like acquaintance kind of people. Like when we've told them, for example, like one of them, we said, you know, hey, you know, wanted to let you know. And, their response to us was, you know what? I'm really sorry you're going through that, but I'm also going through a really big life change. I actually just got a girlfriend and we have been having so much fun. And like, it's so great. Cause like of COVID, we're just like kind of quarantined together. And my husband and I were just like, this is not the same. Like big life change. Getting a girlfriend is a little bit different. Not to downplay your excitement, but you know, it's just funny to see how people, especially when you're younger and you don't have a lot of experience with that cancer interaction, just how they react. But I don't want to say that and take away from all the wonderful people.
Right. No, there's definitely some weird stuff. What about you, Tami? Do you have any weirdness come at you?
Not really. I keep a very small friend group, close friend group anyways. It was kind of what I expected. A lot of people are like, oh, let me know if you need anything at all. And then you never hear from them again. But like my best friend, actually, I called her the same day I found out I was still at work and I called her And before I left the work that day, I had a bouquet of flowers delivered with a card that said, "We will get through this."
Sweet.
So, and she's like, make sure you emphasize the "we will get through this."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, Lamia, what do you wish someone would have told you when you were diagnosed? Like, what's the advice you wish you had received that would have helped you out during the process?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think the main thing is when I was going through it, I really thought that, is this going to be my life now? Is this like I'm just immersed in this medical, even though I am in the medical field, but I'm just immersed in all of this, and like, is this how my life is going to be? And I wish me now could see me then and could talk to me then and tell her, you know what, you're going to get through this. And not only are you going to get through this, but 2 months after you finish chemo and before you finish your reconstruction, you're going to do a breast cancer walk. And then, because I never would have imagined that, 2 months, less than 2 months after I finished chemo, I did my first cancer walk. And I thought, oh God, I don't want to be in this pink. I don't want to think about this anymore until I have my implant surgery. And then, but it was amazing. And just to see people in 20 years out, 10 years out, I knew that there was going to be life after this, and there is life. And so, I think if somebody had told me you're not going to think about cancer every day as the years go on, I wouldn't have believed them, because I lived it and breathed it. And maybe a year or two out, I was still thinking about it every day. Every time I got a headache, oh, that cancer went to your brain. Every time I got a backache, anything, I always thought, oh, is that cancer? Now when I get a headache, no, I know it's just a headache, Lamia. Or if my back hurts, it's just back pain because you lifted something heavy or something. Right. It's not everything. I don't think about cancer every day. And I think I wish somebody would have told me that, if I had known that, I guess, when I was going through it, that you won't think about it every day as the years progress. Yeah.
I love that. I remember during my treatment, when October came around and our hospital puts out like 1 million pink flamingos.
Yeah.
And they're so cute. And I was driving into chemo. I had 15 months of chemo. So I just kept going back all the time. And I was always in for IV fluids. And I would just look and think, oh my God, I'm never going to escape this. I'm never going to be able to be done with breast cancer. Look at all these flamingos and they're so cute. And I hate these flamingos. So, so now that it's over, I'm not under the weight of breast cancer anymore. It's all okay. I still don't wear pink ribbons. I don't know if I'll ever wear a pink ribbon as long as I live. I refuse still, which is tacky and stupid, but it's whatever. I like pink. Pink's okay. But yeah, it's you stop thinking about it. It stops becoming a burden, and that's super nice. What about you, Tami? What do you wish someone had told you going into your little nightmare?
I think one of the big things I wish I knew is when they say you're going to lose your hair from chemo, they mean all hair.
That's right.
Everywhere. Nose hair, leg hair. My daughter my youngest was 14 at the time, and she's like, you don't have to shave your legs right now, do you? And I was like, no. And she goes, oh my God, you're so lucky. And I'm like, really? I was like, I would shave my legs twice a day not to have to go through this.
Right. Or to have your eyelashes fall out.
Or eyebrows. I felt like Uncle Fester.
Yeah.
Voldemort. I was Voldemort. That was it. I was not cute. What are your beauty tips, guys? Do you have it? Like, how did you manage the deterioration of your girliness? And I was called sir. Someone said, hey buddy, what you doing? Oh, you're a mom. And it was that moment. And I didn't handle it well. I sobbed. I burst out into tears. And I got my big girl pants on the next day. And I always wore bright lipstick. But what about you guys? How did you handle the eyelashes, the eyebrows, etc.?
Well, I became my own makeup artist, and I got a really good eyebrow pencil, and I literally drew them in. And they actually looked real.
Okay.
And that made me feel good because a prominent feature on my face is my eyebrows. So when I did that, I actually felt better, and I took the time to do that. So that was my beauty tip.
I like that. And then have your eyebrows grown back fully to where they were?
They have, but there are like little empty spots, I guess. And I don't know if that's just from that or from just aging or a combination of the two.
Blame it on chemo. It's chemo.
Yeah.
Blame it on chemo.
Chemo.
You're not that old yet. Mandy, what about you?
Honestly, I really didn't. It was such a weird situation. I feel like what I really used to play up my feminism was my pregnant belly. I mean, it kind of got to the point where I was just walking in, when I first started going to chemo, I was wearing really baggy stuff. I was embarrassed. I didn't want people to see that I was pregnant. And then, I don't know, a couple rounds in, I realized no, I'm going through this pregnant, and I want people to see this and see okay, if that girl's doing it, I can do it. So then I just kind of really started wearing a lot of clothing that was tighter to really emphasize my belly. Obviously I was bald, so I just kind of embraced that. If I hadn't been pregnant, I don't know what I would have used necessarily. But
YouTube got all the pointers. I remember having no lashes and no eyebrows, and I stand on a stage for a living, and I got on those stages bald, but I just thought, I just want to have some eyebrows, and it's very tricky to do eye makeup with no lashes. It just you can't even put strip lashes because strip lashes sit on real lashes, so it just it was very weird. What about you, Tami? Any beauty tips?
During treatment, pretty much the only thing I did was just make sure I had good moisturizer.
Okay.
Once I started losing the eyebrows and the eyelashes, I had dark circles from being tired all the time from the chemo and everything. I was like, I'm just going to be Uncle Fester's sister and go for it. Because it didn't make a difference at that point, the swelling from the steroids, and just, I was like, I'm Uncle Fester.
Well, you know what? We did have bigger fish to fry. Right. Yeah. I remember just thinking this is the way I look. Sometimes I'd be in a hotel room getting ready to walk out on one of those stages, and I would just look in the mirror and go, pretend you feel fabulous, because this is the face you got. So get on out there and do your job. It was not my favorite days, but I'm so glad to be beyond it. What was the funniest part of your treatment? And of course, nothing is really funny, but there was some funny stuff, I thought. You've got the nostril hair, Tami. Anything else make you laugh when you look back?
I don't know. It's just kind of everything when you're on the other side of it. How ridiculous I felt at times, and trying to look normal and knowing there was nothing I could do in that moment to blend in.
Yeah.
So all of it at this point makes me laugh.
I think that's what really through the hard stuff is you just think, oh my God, how it's, the fingers. Do you have the fingernails? Did you have the fingernail? No. Okay. Lucky. So we've had some comments. Rebecca says, you ladies are awesome. Thank you for sharing. Every one of you are amazing. Thank you for sharing your personal experiences. Others can know the reality of the cancer. Yeah, we've done this once before last week, and response after the show was incredible. The amount of women to reach out and say, thank you so much. I'm going through it right now. That was so helpful. And, your stories are very, very helpful. So I'm going to move past breast cancer again, because I think you shared a ton. Anything else you want to share with people before we do that? Lamia?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. So I always found it odd that why do they call it a mastectomy? I am not removing a mast. What does that mean? Let's call it what it is. It is a breast amputation. That is what it is. And so I want to change the name. I want to call it what it is. It is not a mast, M-A-S-T, that I'm removing. It is a breast. And you lose an arm, you lose a leg, it's called an amputation.
Yeah.
This is something that's coming out of you and it's being removed. It's therefore should be called what it is. We don't sugarcoat this.
Right.
It is a breast amputation. That's what I want to change the name to.
Okay.
It doesn't sound nice, but what is a mastectomy? I never understood that. Bilateral mastectomy. What does that even mean? So that's my takeaway point.
I like that. We can campaign for that.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing is, you know how the nickname for double mastectomy is DMX? There's a rapper named DMX. He just died, but anyways, DMX. Wi-Fi. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
All right. Wi-Fi. All right. So back to people who were first Hollywood crush. Tami.
My first Hollywood crush. Oh wow. Probably Johnny Depp.
Very good choice. Is it the Edward Scissorhands Johnny Depp?
No, it's probably more the Jack Sparrow.
Same for pirates. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Long. What about you? First Hollywood
George
crush.
Clooney.
Okay. Is he still a crush?
Yes. And when we were in DC, there's the Wax Museum and there's a George Clooney. And so I put my arm in his arm, took a picture.
In your day. Okay. Mandy, what about you?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Titanic.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very nice. Mine's John Travolta.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. And he actually lives, for the Gainesville girls, he lives up the road. He lives in Ocala.
Yep.
And I hear he comes to our gym.
Yes, he does.
I got to get out there. It's like 3:00 in the morning on Sunday or something like that.
I think it's a little after midnight on Sundays. It used to be anyway. I don't know about now, but it used to be. And people pretty much leave him alone, but that's his time to go and be by himself. Yeah.
Just so we're clear, I don't think I could leave him alone. I would squeal. God's earth would I be at a gym at midnight, but I think that happen for sure. Holy smokes. Okay. Tami, sweet or salty?
Depends on the day. Probably more sweet though.
You're a sweet girl. Mandy.
Sweet.
Lamia.
Sweet.
Sweet. Okay. Favorite movie, Mandy.
Oh God, that was so quick. Wizard of Oz.
Okay. That's really cute. Lamia.
E.T.
I love that. Going home. That's a great choice. Tami.
I'm kind of stuck on Sweet Home Alabama right now.
Oh, with Reese Witherspoon.
Mhm.
That's Spoon. That's a very cutie. And then, what do you guys like to do for fun, Mandy?
I love to go to new parks and walk with my family. That's my favorite thing.
I love that. And Lamia?
Oh, I like to de-stress and just watch mindless television, like Real Housewives of anything.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I would have picked you as a Real Housewives.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Real Housewives of New Jersey, they're the best.
Amazing. Do you know there's some ladies in Gainesville? This is totally, people are like, why are they talking about this? There's a bunch of girls in Gainesville and they have their hashtag called Hot Moms of Gainesville. And I just think, really? That's aiming really, really low. So better hashtag. Yeah, I'm sure the Real Housewives are probably slightly more interesting for sure. Tami, what about you?
I love to read.
Favorite book?
Well, I read all different kinds of stuff. Probably the Harry Potter series, or maybe the Home for the Peculiar Children series.
Okay. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Super peculiar. I have peculiar children. I can share that. Yeah. And Mandy and Lamia, do you read? What are your favorite books?
I used to read all the time. I don't read as much anymore. But I also love the Harry Potter series. I loved it, when my kids were reading it. I love that series as well. I also love mystery novels. I used to read, oh God, it'll come to me, Chemo Brain. I can't remember. But who's the really famous woman who wrote mystery? Like the Orient Express.
Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie. I think I've read every Agatha Christie book. Yeah.
Super fun. And Mandy?
I am also totally a mystery book girl. Like, I love Ruth Ware and like Gone Girl and that sort of stuff. But it was a little too heavy for me during cancer treatment. So I switched to, have you guys ever heard of cozy mysteries? They're like, it's still like a mystery, but it's more like a fun, lighthearted kind of mystery. So there was this author I kind of got addicted to during chemo named Duffy Brown. And it like takes place in Savannah and the characters are just outrageous and it's funny. And so I'll slowly get back into my dark, deep stuff one day. But
yeah, stick with
now.
Have to lighthearted. Yeah, I do biographies and memoirs. I don't know why. And then I wrote one. So yeah, right now I'm listening to Rob Lowe, Stories I Only Tell My Friends. It's really good. It's really good. That's a sidebar. All right. Well, listen, we're going to giddy up. Thank you so much for spending over an hour of your time, ladies. I know this is definitely going to help some people that are going through it. So I really appreciate it. And I would be remiss, Lamia, if I did not mention that for those in the North Central Florida area on October 23rd, we have the Making Strides for Breast Cancer Walk here in Gainesville at Celebration Point. I'm the honorary chair, but Lamia is the legit, full-blown fundraising goddess of Gainesville. She has brought in so much money through sponsorship dollars and her team. So pretty cool. We want everyone to come out. We have a 5K walk and a 1K. When I say walk. If you run this race, it's not a race. If you run at this event, you're the weirdo. So come out, walk. If you can only, the 1K is literally a walk around the parking lot. So it's accessible to almost everybody. If you're not feeling so good and someone's going to push you in a wheelchair, we welcome that. We are hoping that everyone will come out decked out in god-awful amounts of pink, pink everything, pink tutus, pink undies, pink bras, pink hair. We want it to be fun. And that's really how you build up a wonderful event like this, is you make it a really good time. So we're planning on having a blast and we would love everyone to come out. It's a free registration. You can just register and come be a part. And if you're moved to donate, great. And more importantly, come out and hopefully you'll be convinced to do those self-exams, get those annual exams, squeeze your stuff. And it's the early detection thing, especially with that triple negative. We know that early detection does save lives. And I'm so glad we're all here. And I expect for us to be able to reconvene in 20 years and do this again.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, ladies. Everyone have a great night.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thanks, Fitz.